Hello, everybody, and welcome back. The question we're going to be discussing today is, what do you do if someone has an unreasonable boundary? Healthy boundaries are good, but what if it's a bad boundary? How do you react to that? How do you work with them?
Okay, that's a good question. So first, we have to try to empathize with why they have such a boundary in the first place. Because people set boundaries based on their own life experiences and the circumstances of their life. And that's information that we don't always have. So to begin with, start with empathy. And if you aren't able to tell why they have such a boundary, you can ask. And most of the time, they'd be happy to answer. I say this as someone who has been confronted for having unreasonable boundaries. And it has made me think deeper about why I have these boundaries. And it's not always a conscious decision to set those boundaries. Sometimes it's just something that you do involuntarily. There's still thinking behind it. It's still a process, but you're not always cognizant of it. So then once you recognize their reasons for having the boundary and they feel that those are acknowledged, then you might point out how the boundary harms you or harms other people, why you think it's unreasonable, discuss other options that they can have in order for them to feel safe and secure, to have their interests met, but at the same time, not have to set this boundary. So it would have to be a dialogue, and I don't think boundaries can be changed in an instant. A lot of the time, it's a process. It takes time. It takes give and take between different parties, and change can happen, but it has to be a process that involves a lot of communication and empathy on both sides. What do you think?
You make a really good point there. You don't know what past someone has had, and generally, if you're talking to someone and you're getting the feeling that from what they're saying, they're being really prickly, or you're like, ooh, okay, you're making me a bit standoffish right now. I think that's a good indicator of an unreasonable boundary. And generally it's because people are reacting to something that's happened in their past. And oftentimes it might just be an overreaction, overcorrection, which a lot of us are prone to doing when we go through tough times. So definitely empathy and communication, and recognizing that maybe the cause for why they have the boundary is something that should be addressed with therapy and not necessarily something for you to solve. And a good way to identify something is an unreasonable boundary is, boundaries are kind of like a good, like a recommendation for yourself, a recommendation that you follow, right? It's boundaries, you stick to them. But if it's flexible for letting some people in, it's or others out, and it lets you still connect with people. An unreasonable boundary might be pushing everyone away, regardless of the situation. So I guess that's one way to identify it. But as far as how to respond to someone, I think you covered it really well, Deepak.
Thank you. But I'm also curious about something else here. What happens if you feel a boundary is unreasonable and you then violate it?
Ooh, so I would think you need to let the person whose boundary you're going to violate know before you do that, rather than just do it first and then ask for forgiveness later.
It depends on how it's seen as unreasonable, right? If it's something you literally cannot follow, if they're requiring you to do something that's impossible for you, you're going to have to express that, preferably before the boundary itself is violated. But what if you have violated what you felt was an unreasonable boundary? How do you deal with that then?
Well, there's going to be fallout, and the person whose boundary was violated, if they're very conscious about it, they're going to be upset with you, and it might make it harder for them to listen to you, even if you want to have a conversation about why it's an unreasonable boundary, what's a better middle ground, what's a new boundary that could be set. How do you talk to them if you violated it? I guess do your best to get them to listen to you. And then and then try to explain why you did what you did. What would you do, Deepak?
It would be very context dependent, depending on the boundary, the person, the relationship I have with them, how much they trust me, how much I trust them.
True. Sometimes when you break people's boundaries, they don't even want to talk to you after that. Like for some people, boundaries are a hard line, and if they're broken, they don't want to. They might feel they're justified to distance themselves from you.
Right, that is correct.
So maybe we should talk more about our boundaries never meant to be broken.
We should talk about that next week, tomorrow.
Yeah, let's talk about it tomorrow. See you then.
Yeah. See you then.
Oh, you're still here? Well, thanks for getting to the end of the video. Hey, while you're still here, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get new updates when we post videos. Also, make sure to check out these equally exciting videos as well. Have you pressed it yet? Come on, you have 5 seconds left. 3, 2, press it now.